missionary a number of years ago, and he said he wouldn't want to be president of the United States. He wouldn't want to take the demotion. Because to serve the King of the universe is better than any position the world could ever afford. So we have a privilege, and we're going to see the Lord someday. Well, we're going to not have testimonies and favorites. I'm sorry if you were all ready to go with a song you wanted to sing, but we want to give our missionaries the enough time that they need, and also there's going to be question and answer at the end. So be thinking about your questions. I don't think he cares what it has to do with, like, what's the house like you live there or whatever. So, and you can use that question if you want. But once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the piano for us, and turn it over to you now.
Thanks so much, Pastor. So I thought tonight I'd show some pictures so that you can get a picture of what's going on there and all. And like Pastor says, you can ask questions afterward. Even of Mary, she'd be happy to answer some question if it's more related to her life or whatever like that. So this is what the Bicol region looks like. It's a lot of rice fields. It's pretty flat, but there's mountains in the distance. There's lots of volcanoes, so there are some mountains. But this is rice field. There are lots of banana trees. You notice they have bananas have a heart. We talked about that one time in our presentation, but the fruit comes out of that heart, that purple heart. The bananas will come out of that. So this is Mount Mayon. That erupts about every 2 years. It's about 50 miles south of us, but it makes beautiful scenery there. And of course we have kind of open market. We buy our fruit in a stand like this. We have someone who we buy from regularly. These are like foods that you would eat at breakfast time. You'd eat dried fish, and there's some salted eggs there and tomatoes. So those are kind of breakfast foods. There's the vegetables we have, various vegetables. Some you can recognize like the carrots, but others maybe not, like the long string beans and the eggplant and things like that. And the meat market. And we eat about everything there, and there's always fresh fish. So that's a blessing, because the ocean's only like about 45 minutes to 1 hour away. So we always have fresh fish. Here's some of the things we have in our house sometimes. This is a gecko lizard, or we call them toko in the Philippines. And the difference between a toko and a gecko is the geckos speak English and the tokos speak Tagalog. So, here we hear them and they say gecko, but when they're over there they say toko. So it's a toko. We call it a toko. And sometimes they're moving a pig from the farm out to the road, so that's kind of how they're doing it there. They're threshing rice here. After they harvest it, then they thresh it with this machine. And here's some of the wildlife we have. Water buffalo are used in the fields, like a tractor, or to pull things like this. So it's loaded with bananas there. These are, I think these are more like the cooking bananas. But one of the things that the Philippines is well known for is a food called balut. And what balut is it's a duck egg, but it's got a duck inside. So they'll have ducks like this, and they'll go into the rice fields, and the ducks will eat the snails, and that makes their eggs stronger and things like that. But also it kills a major pest in the rice fields, because the snails will destroy the rice fields. So this farmer has his ducks, and helping out the farmer by putting those out in the field, and then they'll collect the eggs like this. And then at night, it's always at night, you never see it during the day, but they'll have these boiled, and you can buy what they call balut, which is the duck egg. And so you can poke a little hole in it, and then you see he's got a bottle there, a plastic bottle, that has some hot pepper and vinegar, and you put that inside, and then you can slurp out the duck. And you can get a duck that's like 18-day egg, and that's really like, it's just like liquid. But if you get it more like 23-day, I think it is, you might get a feather or a beak. But they say it's delicious. I tried it once because people have said, have you ever tried balut? So finally I tried it. I didn't like it real well, but it was okay. I could handle it. So.
They cook them.
Yeah, they cook them. They boil those, and yeah. This guy has he's made ice cream. We call that dirty ice cream. It's not really dirty. It's just made at home, and it's really delicious. So they'll use what do they call it? Dry ice to keep it good and cold, and then on the hot days they'll bring it by, and after church, then people will run out and get ice cream cones when the ice cream man comes by. So this is how we cook at church activities when we're having a big group. Sometimes some people will do this at home, but a lot of people will use like LP gas for like we do. We do that. But you can cook on wood. In the big pot there'll be rice, and the other what we call caldero will be the topping for the rice. So you can see they're cooking for this is probably a church anniversary, so the men are cooking the rice, and they have 2 pots going because Filipinos love rice. So they'll have a mound of rice with just a little bit of topping to it. And when I was new there, I would be just a little bit of rice with a lot of topping. But the rice there is delicious, honestly. I like the rice. So the longer I've been there, the more rice I take. I'm kind of being more like them. But here he's got something cooking for the lunch. And here's a famous food in the Philippines called pancit. So that's rice noodles, and you can put a lot of different things in it. Oftentimes they'll put some shrimp in there and some green beans and cabbage, and it's really good. For a party, like a children's party, this was for a Christmas party every year, this will be what the kids will eat. They love this kind of food. So a party food, spaghetti is a party food. So they'll eat spaghetti, and then they have a hot dog and on a stick with a marshmallow on each side. And then they have a piece of fried chicken and a piece of, what do they call it? Chiffon cake. So that's what they'll eat. And then I want to show you some pictures of transportation. You can just ride a caravel. Some people do that. They ride motorcycles, and you can see this guy has his whole family on the motorcycle. And they have tricycles. A tricycle is a motorcycle with a sidecar. So you can have like that, or you can fill it up like this sometimes. They'll overload them a little bit, but it's fun. They enjoy sometimes. They don't want to leave anyone behind. So if there's 2 or 3 extra people and they can't really fit, they'll make them fit. They'll have them fit. So, and then they have what they call pajak. Paj is a pajak, I think. Somehow that relates to the foot. So a pajak is something that someone actually pedals. So they're taking me somewhere there. And then they have jeepneys. So jeepneys started after World War II. There were lots of surplus jeeps left in the Philippines because Americans came over and liberated the Philippines. They had a lot of leftover jeeps, so they expanded the jeeps, kind of cut them in half and expanded them, and that's what were the original jeepneys. Of course, now they make them, kind of that style, but you can put a lot of people on a jeepney, especially if you have a top load like that. And this was our vehicle for a while, and you can see we just pack things out. So people ask, how many people can fit in your vehicle? And I say, well, about 8 Americans or 22 Filipinos. But oftentimes we're going to Bible studies, and there'll be houses. You can barely see a house on the right here off in the distance. And how do you get to that house? Well, oftentimes you have to walk on these thin paths through the rice field. And you have to be careful because if you slip off, you're in the mud. So they have, in order to grow rice, they have to have paddies. So they have to, put a dike up to keep the water in.
Kevin, just
sure.
so you know, above where you change the slides, there's a button that's a laser pointer.
Oh, okay. Oh, right there. There we go. Yeah, these dikes. Thank you, Pastor. So you can see the house way back there. So there's always houses. Even throughout the rice fields, there's houses. So if we went to this house for a Bible study, we'd have to take this path through the rice field. And the rice, you can't see the water, but there's water in these rice fields. So you have to be careful not to fall off the path. So you can see she's walking the path, going out. That's one of our ladies going out for a Bible study. And this, after they harvest, it's much easier because the path is dry. You can see the carabao there, the water buffalo. Oops. Now I did it. Oh, there we go. So they're harvesting the rice there. And sometimes you have to cross bamboo bridges like this. So the thing about bamboo is, it's round, so you have to be careful how you walk across. You could easily slip off. But, the Philippines is a Catholic country, and they're really into idolatry and Mary worship, and they count on Mary and pray to her more than Christ. They have a saying, the way to get to the Son is through the mother. So they're always calling on Mary. This is an idol that's at the airport. Before you leave, you can go up and touch the idol and pray and have so you can have a safe trip to going to Manila. So that's how people live there. They're lost in that and false teaching. And so we seek to reach them. On the Catholic churches, usually they'll have the 10 Commandments listed on the outside, but notice in our Bibles we would say number 2 is, thou shalt not make a graven image, right? And then thou shalt not bow down or worship a graven image. But they've left out number 2, and how can they leave out 2 and have 10 still? Notice 9 and 10. Thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not covet thy neighbor's goods, right? So they've divided the 10th into 2 commands. So they still have 10, but they've left out the 2nd command. And so many Filipinos are unaware, and so we'll go to them and show them from the Bible what the Scriptures say. And we try not to offend them, but we just read the 10 Commandments with them and ask them, have you kept these commandments? And when they get to that 2nd command and we show them right from the Bible, they're like, I didn't know that. Really? You're not supposed to bow down to an image? Well, why aren't they telling us that? And we just say, I'm not sure. Why aren't they telling you that? We kind of leave it back on them, but sometimes they're willing to accept the gospel because of that. They realize, our teachings are wrong, but other times they're just, hey, my church is always right, and so they're not open to it. But that's a struggle for them, that they're being taught false teaching, and they are calling on idols and calling on Mary to help them with their problem with sin instead of looking to Christ alone. So we're seeking to reach them with the gospel. Mary is supreme. You can see on Holy Week, Good Friday, they'll have parades, and the last float like this will be Mary, the Queen of Heaven. And even this float, when Jesus has died on the cross and he's been taken down, but see, Jesus is helpless and Mary's there to help him. Mary's there behind him, all in gold. And so it's sad. It's sad that they're lost. But how can we reach them? Well, nothing's too hard for the Lord. I thought maybe I'd teach you a little Tagalog tonight. Would you like to learn a little of a foreign language? I'm sure Maritas already knows what it says and could translate it for us, but we'll learn this little song that we teach our young people. Wala, the word wala, W-A-L, means nothing, nothing. And then there's a linker that ties it to the next word. Mahirap means hard. And then sa is for, and Jos is God, okay? So it says, there's nothing hard for God. Okay, so the song goes, Walang mahirap sa Diyos, walang mahirap sa Diyos, walang How, help me with that. How's it? I'm singing it a little wrong. Walang mahirap sa Diyos. That's how it is. Walang mahirap sa Diyos. Walang mahirap sa Diyos. Walang mahirap sa Diyos. Okay, the means yes, okay? So it's saying nothing's too hard for God. Yes, nothing's too hard for God. So that's a simple song that we teach the young people. Maybe one more time. Let's try to sing it again, okay? Walang mahirap sa Diyos. Walang mahirap sa Diyos. Walang mahirap sa Diyos. Wow, very good. You're quick learners. Here's John 3:16 in our Tagalog Bible right here, okay? So you can see it's quite long. Some of the words are quite long, okay? For example, this is world, sanlibutan, okay? This is love, pag-ibig. And then the long one, sumampalataya. Sumampalataya is the word for faith, okay? Or we'd say believe in English, right? So this is have faith. Sumampalataya. Wag means it won't happen. Mapahamak means to perish. But have, that's have. Life without end. Okay, that's how it is. So I'll read it for you, or I'll quote it for you. It says, "Sapagkat gayon na lamang ang pag-ibig ng Diyos sa sanlibutan, na ibinigay niya ang kanyang tanging anak, upang ang sinumang sa kanya'y sumampalataya ay huwag mapahamak, kundi makaroon ng buhay na walang hanggan." So the Tagalog Bible is much thicker than the English Bible, because their words generally are much longer. You can see how long that one sumampalataya word is. It's quite long. And to have faith, I remember when I was new in the Philippines trying to understand them preaching, and the pastor was talking about by faith we live, we are saved by faith. And the word by, just to say by, is sa pamamagitan. That's just by. Okay, so if you say by faith, you're saying sa pamamagitan ng pananampalataya. So that's by faith. And I kept hearing that. What are they saying? It's by faith. So anyway, that's kind of interesting. Our Filipino friends, they like to learn the Bible verses in English. But I said, listen, if you learn them in English and try to share them with your friends to share the gospel, they won't understand. Like if you learn it in Tagalog. So we need to learn our memory verses in Tagalog. Oh, Pastor, it's so hard. I said, I'm an American. I'm learning them in Tagalog. You can do it too. So they're thankful now because we can share the gospel in Tagalog, in the Filipino language, and the people can understand it much better. So we work at that. I read the Tagalog Bible every day because I want to know what it says. I want to be familiar with the wording. And so every day I read the Tagalog Bible. So here's a Bible study. This family didn't have extra chairs, so they just had a bench. So I'm trying to train this young man. He was in like 7th grade at that time, how to share the gospel with some young people his age. And so there weren't enough benches, so I'm just sitting on a rock there and helping him share the gospel with these young people. So it's a joy to be able to teach like that. And we teach adults, we teach young people in our church how to share the gospel so that they can reach out to their classmates and friends, coworkers, and neighbors and relatives. Here I'm sharing the gospel with a young man. This is our Sunday school class at our outreach church. So there was a special occasion they're eating there. And, I'm sorry. So this is what our outreach church looks like. It has a building that's not yet a cement building. It's kind of made on with temporary, what do you call it? materials, but that's what we use. So this is Pastor Ben, who leads the church. He's doing a great job, and some of our faithful people there. The roof is like thatch. We call it nipa, or I think this is an ahau, actually. It's a kind of a leaf. But the thing about an ahau, it breathes. So on hot days, it lets the air in nicely. And when it rains, generally, as soon as water hits it, it like spreads and seals out the rain. But there'll be a few drips. But what we always joke about in the Philippines is it only leaks when it rains, so it's no big deal. And then this is our the church that the main church, Calvary Baptist Church, that Lord willing within a year or so we'll be turning over to national leadership. So you can pray about that. Pray as we make that transition. We have men that can carry the work. They're doing it while we're gone. It's just that the man that would be the one to take over lacks some Bible training, and so I'm trying to work with them on that. And at this point, they need someone to help with the preaching load. So I'm going to be doing that when I go back. But Lord willing, within a year, we'll be able to turn over this work. So we rejoice in that. Here's some of our leaders in the church. A young man named Dennis, and Sosimo, and me, and then Ricky, and Danny, and Leo, and Romeo, and Peter. So I'm so thankful for those men that the Lord's given us. And here's an outreach that we've done a number of times. And these are guys from the area we're trying to reach out to, called Pagasa. Pagasa, like I said earlier today, means hope. And these men came to our men's activity called Sports Fest, where the whole day we just play some sports, but we also have a devotion in the morning and then preaching a clear presentation of the gospel in the afternoon. And all these guys, like I said, are from Pagasa. So you can pray. This is JP. Pray for this man. His wife has gotten saved recently, but JP still doesn't understand the gospel. I've shared with him several times. I think he wants to understand. He just doesn't connect yet all the principles of the gospel. So pray that we can reach JP and these other young men, that some of them have been students of ours in our values class, like this fella, RJ, so, and others. Here's what we're doing at Men's Sports Fest. One of the games, we had a big ball, and we're playing volleyball, and they love that. This is the family that Lord willing will be taking over, Richard and Sylvia and his 3 children, a more updated picture. So pray for Richard. He's 35 years old and wants to minister. He loves to study God's Word, and he loves to minister, and he's doing a great job. His wife is on board as well. She's excited to help the ladies in the church. And Stephanie's 8th grade, and Amethyst is in 5th grade, and Chad's in 1st grade. So you can pray for those children to grow up to fear the Lord. And they're doing a great job with their family. And here's some of the other men that help out in the work. This is Pastor Ben, who's carrying the work in the outreach church, and this is Richard, who we plan to have take over at Calvary. And this man is Peter. He's 66 years old now, and a high school teacher, and just well respected. He did a lot of the discipleship of Richard. Richard. And then this is our church treasurer named Leo. He's a good man as well. So you can pray for the leadership of the church. Here's some of our young people and some other young men in our youth group. These guys are in high school. Dennis and Ricky are graduated, and some other guys in our youth group. So, and then some families that we're praying about to be added at Calvary are the Nova family. They're going through discipleship now, and Michelle Rabueno and her children. And then this is John Paul and his wife Mary Joy. The Lord just led them to our church. God is good to us, and we really can't take credit for John Paul and Mary Joy coming to our church. John Paul's a seaman, and he was on a ship, and another Filipino man led him to the Lord and told him, when you go back home, you get baptized and you get into a good church. And so come to find out, he lived a mile from our church, and we had never been able to reach his family. His father was in Iglesia de Cristo, a cult there, and John Paul followed the instruction, and he got baptized and is preparing to join the church. So we just rejoice in God giving us that good couple with 2 young children. And then another church member's son, is a teacher, and this boy was in her class, and then the mother and boy are coming now as well, Belle and James. And then Rehoboam and Irene. Rehoboam is a brother of Richard, who's going to take the work. So pray for Rehoboam and Irene. And then I wanted to show you some pictures so you can think of us at Pagasa. This is a man that we're trying to reach. Joel is his name. He's professed, but there's not really fruit in his life. So pray for Joel. You know, at Pagasa we have some grandfathers that are saved. We have some mothers. We have some young people, but we don't have a complete family. And that's really, we need a good, solid family to build on. Someone that, maybe they're not solid now, but where we could get husband and wife saved and see them grow and be committed. And we could build a family around. So you can pray for Joel, and his wife's name is Josephina, that they will come to know the Lord and grow. Maybe he's saved already. He and his wife are both professed, but again, there's no fruit in their lives. So pray for them. Here's some men that we're trying to work with, Ramon and his son-in-law, Seth, but not yet saved. So, and this is Nestor. He's saved and he's reading his Bible, but none of his family members are following to this point. So you can pray for the Nicario family, that we can reach the Nicarios. Here's some young girls that all these were our value students in years past. But pray for them. I think Pauline might be saved, but the others are not yet saved. But their father's saved. So pray for that family as well. Here's a young lady that was a value student that is saved. Gina. I forgot the name all of a sudden. And some other value students that we've had. This is a mother that's growing in the Lord, Mari Chris, that lives in Pagasa. And then this family, Reynaldo, and then his son-in-law and their family, the Olarve family. This fellow's name is, thank you, Renato. Reynaldo is his father-in-law, Renato. Renato likes me. He likes me, and I've shared the gospel with him numerous times, and he tells me, I'm not yet ready. You know, but we have a relationship. He never tells me, don't come here, or I don't want to hear it. He's always like, come on in, Pastor. Calls me Pastor, and I can share the gospel with him, but his answer is always, not yet ready. And his children, all his children are, he said, I gave my children their names because I devoted them to the Pina Francia idol in Naga City. That's what he told me. So his oldest is named Francis, and his daughter named Marie France. So they all have these names related to an idol in Naga called the Pina Francia idol, which is, there's many devotees to that idol. But pray for the Olarve family. So those are the pictures I wanted to show you tonight. And to help you see, I think it helps to see some faces put some faces with some names. But do you have some questions that I can answer for you tonight? Mrs.?
Does Mary work with the ladies?
Yeah, she does.
The ladies' fellowship?
We do at Calvary. We have a ladies' fellowship. At Pag-asa,
It's hard.
it's still nothing.
Yeah.
I do Bible studies with ladies individually. Sometimes we invite them to Calvary.
And then we always have the ladies' Christmas party.
Right.
And she's had a number of the ladies from Pagasa come to that Christmas party.
Yeah. You showed the picture of the children's Christmas party.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't have I didn't happen to put one on there, but we have a ladies' Christmas party as well. So, did you have a question,
Yes,
Pastor?
I think you spoke to my wife about the Burnhams.
Right.
Now, Is the Abu Sayyaf prominent where you are?
Not where we're at. It's more down in the southernmost islands of Mindanao.
And is that Muslim?
Yes,
Yes.
Muslim, it is. Like several islands on like the tail of Mindanao are just solid Muslim. So there's always issues down there with the Muslims. But we have more and more Muslims even in our area. A lot of Filipinos work abroad and they'll work in Muslim countries and convert. A guy across the street from our church actually is a Muslim. And I've been able to talk to him. He's friendly and all, but he's devoted to the Muslim faith. So. Sir?
How long have you been there?
What?
How long have you been there?
We went to the Philippines the first time as missionaries in 2000, year 2000. So we spent a year in language school, and we've been in the Bicol region where we're ministering since 2002. So.
Do you celebrate Christmas the same time we do?
Yes, yes, we do. So that's a fun time, and it's always warm there, so it's not cold at Christmas. So
No white Christmas.
no white Christmas. So.
I noticed that you and your wife seem to be the lone Westerners. Do you have any other Western people helping you
No,
in
we
your
don't.
ministry?
Just the two of us. So.
So when you first went over, you started from scratch planning a church then?
No, we started working out of Calvary. That was planted by Pastor Spears. He planted it in '94, and then we went over in 2000. So the church was
Video this morning.
right, and then we were able to plant faith out of that, and now we're seeking to reach Pagasa. It's slow. I mean, we'd hoped that we had more than just one of our own churches that we planted, but it has taken a lot more time than we anticipated. But the Lord's good, and we're doing our best. So, other questions?
Are there expats around?
There's some. Not so much in Naga, not so much in our area. Lots of expats north of Manila, like where Clark Air Force Base was, and Subic Bay. You know, the U.S. used to have their biggest military bases outside of America were in the Philippines, with Subic Bay was huge Navy base. But that closed about, I think, 92 maybe, something like that. After Mount Pinatubo erupted, that really destroyed a lot of buildings on the base, and there was new administration in the Philippines that wasn't so pro-American. So when Marcos was put down, then Cory Aquino really wasn't pro-American. So she kind of wanted us out, and then when Mount Pinatubo blew, it destroyed a lot of the base housing, so the Americans just pulled out. So
Are you eager to get home?
we are. We are. We're excited. Yeah,
And
we're excited.
When will you go back?
October 22nd. Actually,
said
just
that
after
this morning,
midnight,
so-
so, right. Just after midnight. Our flight leaves at 12:30 a.m., so so it's almost like Monday night, but it'll be Tuesday.
When I was in high school, there are different occasions. In high school, there was, where I attended, they have a catechism for Catholic only.
Mhm.
How are they in your area for high school? Are they open to any different religion when you want to reach out to students?
Well, they say that according to the Constitution of the Philippines, you can't teach a religion in school. That's what they say. And so with our values program, it's not illegal to teach the Bible. It's not illegal to preach the gospel. It's just illegal to teach a religion. So really the Catholics are not supposed to like teach children how to pray the rosary. But 90% of the population, at least in Bicol, is Catholic, so they can get around those rules, you know. So they can do that, and they do, especially when they see us. Then they get on the ball. So it's kind of funny how that works, because like at Pagasa where we're at, there's a little chapel, and it was rarely used. But then when we started teaching there, you start seeing like they're having like masses there more regularly. But that's okay. we're just trusting the Lord for that, and we don't ask for special privileges. The Lord's let us in there and allowed us to teach, so we don't really share the gospel so much in the classroom. We just do it more individually, one-on-one in the home. So we go to the home to do that, so that we don't have a problem with them saying you're teaching a religion or something like that. So the curriculum we use, we end a lesson, like a 40-minute lesson, with a little assignment to do in class, and then there's a pink sheet that's a take-home sheet that they take home as homework, but then on the back side there's a place for the parent to sign that explains the lesson. So the parents are aware of what we're teaching, and then they're supposed to sign it. So that gives us a lot of excuses, because rarely does a parent sign it. So we can go and ask the parent, have you seen it? Do you understand what we're doing? And the Bible is a textbook for good values. And by the way, the Bible talks about eternal life. Are you sure you have eternal life? You see how it opens a gospel opportunity for us? So by the second or third time we talk to parents, usually we share the gospel with them. Some are open, some aren't, but at least we get in the door, and we've been able to reach a lot of them. So we praise the Lord for that.
Do you have any needs?
We need prayer support. That's what we need most of all. So our support level is good. The Lord's blessed that way. So we really don't need more financial support, but we do need prayer support. So we'd encourage you to do that.
Have you had the opportunity to maybe try and witness to priests?
No, I haven't. I haven't tried that. Haven't really done that. So.
Well, I'm just asking because of my experience when I was a kid. Having the first person to tell me that I needed to be born again was a Catholic priest when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Just thought, well, maybe there might be another one someplace.
Yeah, the priests have a bad reputation, and that's what a lot of people leave Catholicism over is some of the scandals in the Catholic religion. So, like, we have a priest that lives across the road from our church, and he was like, we thought he was done being a priest because they caught him doing some things, and so for like 2 years he was suspended, but now he's just been moved to a different area, and he's back being a priest again. So, but that's very common, and oftentimes after a priest dies, all the heirs come looking for help, so it's covered up until they die, and then things come out in the open. So, it's not God's will for men not to have wives. Let's just put it that way. It's not the Bible. The priests had wives. The Bible is specific about that, who the priest should marry. So that's not God's plan, and it causes a lot of issues. So, Pastor.
I'd be curious, in a nutshell, what called you to the Philippines?
It's like the Lord kept leading people into our lives from the Philippines. Like in '94, we got married. I was finishing a business degree, and then the Lord, about a year later, we were working in our local church and felt like God wanted us to do something more, to be in full-time Christian service. And I didn't know if I should pastor here or go to the mission field, so I had a good job at that time, so we decided, let's save some money and go take a missions trip. And so, when I thought of missions, I thought Africa. So we planned a trip to Africa, but the Lord closed that door. It was going to be terribly expensive. We couldn't afford it. And we found that we could visit a friend and a missionary in Thailand for half the price. So we started making our plans to go to Thailand. And then right while we were planning that trip, the church had a missionary come from the Philippines, and he stayed with us that weekend and said, if you're going to Thailand, it's only a couple-hour flight from the Philippines. Why not spend a week in Thailand and a week with us in Samar, Philippines? So that was my first exposure to the Philippines, and on that trip, we loved the food in the Philippines and enjoyed it. And we enjoyed Thailand too, but oh, the food there was so spicy. And I don't like spicy food, but I told the Lord, if you want me in Thailand, I'll go to Thailand. There's a great need there as well. I'm willing to go if you want me there. But so we came back from that trip not knowing where God wanted us yet, and went off to seminary. And during seminary, you'd have speakers in, and I'm always asking the Lord, should I go there? That Missionaries talks about Mexico City, and that one about France, and this one about Peru, all kinds of different countries. And I kept asking, where should we go, Lord? And then there's this small church. They lost their pastor, and the man who started Calvary was turning the work over. He had turned about 70, I think, and had Parkinson's, and so he wanted to leave that church for his son, and it was told him, you need to really move away from the work so that your son can take over. And so he took this church that's down to 15 people, and he came around because he didn't have a piano player at the church. The piano player had left, and so he came and talked to different seminarians, and I was the fourth one he talked to, and the first one whose wife played the piano. And so he invited us to come and help him at the church in Pottstown. Well, after a year, he said, the church is ready. We'd grown to about 40 or so, and he says, you need your own pastor. And right at that time, Jim Spears was coming back from the Philippines. His kids were going into high school, and he said, I don't want to lose my family. We're gonna transfer home at least for a while. And so he came back, and Pastor Spears said, he's the man for the work. Pastor Jordan said, I think this man's the man for this work. And so, God brought a missionary from the Philippines to our church where we were already ministering for a year. And so God, as soon as Pastor Spears came in, he said, what's God's plans for you guys' lives? And I said, I know missions, but I don't know where. He said, pray about Bicol, Philippines. And so we began praying about Bicol. And then he said, after a couple of years, he said, I'm going to go back and visit. Why don't you come with me? Let's take a survey trip. And so we took that survey trip. And again, like I was saying this morning, that Pastor Spears told us, you've got to make sure you're called. He said, you pray about it. Let's see how God works. And that trip was just amazing. We just saw how God's hand was in it and how God could use us as well. And so that convinced us. That was what really convinced us that it was God's work, God's will for us to go to the Philippines. So that's kind of a long answer to your question.
I like to see how the Lord directs in people's lives. That's great.
That's how he worked in our lives. So. Other questions? God can use anyone.
You said about your nieces and nephews. Do you have any family, brothers, sisters?
Well,
Both of you?
my wife is the oldest of three girls,
Okay.
and all three are missionaries in Asia.
Okay.
So her one sister is with Wycliffe and teaches school in Thailand, and then the other sister, her husband's a pilot in Indonesia. So it's exciting, but it's hard sometimes on the parents because at Christmas time, guess what? They're alone. So that can be difficult.
Christmas, they can come to the Philippines.
Right, and they've done
Christmas,
that.
they can go.
They've done that. But now Dad's 79. Mom's passed away now, but Dad's 79, and he says, my days of a 22-hour trip are finished. So, but a nephew is living with him. One of Mary's sisters has a son that's living with Dad now, so while he's attending college. That's a blessing.
Is that the one in Arkansas you were talking about?
No, that's my side.
Okay.
So on my side, there's 6 of us. I'm the oldest of 6. And so so we have them spread out. One lives close to my parents in Illinois. One's in Arkansas. One's an hour from my parents. One's in my one sister, her husband pastors in near Detroit. So we're kind of spread out. But and then one's in Springfield, Missouri. So. But it's a blessing to get together with them, and to go visit their children. And it's a joy to see how God's working in their lives too. Other questions? Anyone else? All righty. Thank you so much, Pastor.
Oh, thank you so much.